Bring a gun. Burn the myrrh. Stay near the fire. Those were the last words my mother ever wrote to me, and for years I had no idea what they meant. My parents almost never fought, except for one night when I was 9, sick with the flu, up every hour to blow my nose. It was almost 2 in the morning when I got up for the bathroom and heard them arguing in the kitchen. I'd never heard them talk like that before. "We can't just pretend it's not going to happen," my dad said. "We can't send him into it blind." "So what? You want to tell him? Right now?" Mum's voice cracked. "You think it's better he spends his whole life afraid?" "I think it's better he gets a whole life at all." I stood in the hallway and watched my dad's eyes go red. He never got like that. Mum was at the kitchen table with her face in her hands, falling apart in a way I'd never seen. "Maybe it ends with us," she said. "Do you actually believe that?" He took her hand. "We don't have to build his whole life around this." "No, but let's agree we're not leaving him in the dark either." "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. I'll figure something out, I promise." They sat like that for a long time. The next day I was told my grandparents, Mum's parents, had died. Both of them, 63 and 65, on the same day, almost the same hour. Nobody explained it to me, and I didn't think about that night again for almost 20 years. I was 28 when my parents died, both of them the same day, same as my grandparents before them. Just an awkward phone call from a police officer telling me there'd been an accident. I was an only child, so there weren't many people to call. Between the funeral costs and the sympathy casseroles, I almost forgot to go through what they'd left behind. A few weeks later, going through their things, I found a shoebox taped shut with more care than a shoebox has ever been taped in the history of shoeboxes. A note was stuck to the lid, in my mother's handwriting. "Please read." I brought it to the kitchen table and opened it under the light. A few sheets of paper, a couple of small jars. On top, in Mom's handwriting, "If you're reading this, we're gone. If it happened sooner than it should have, it's because something found us. Something we always hoped you'd never have to see. There's a chance it ends with us, but in case it doesn't, do these things when the day comes. First, light a fire. Second, burn the myrrh. Third, stay near the fire. You'll know the day when it comes. Don't go looking for it. You'll understand. We've prayed every night since you were born that this wouldn't happen. But if it does, light the fire, burn the myrrh, and please, my most precious boy, stay near the flame." I didn't notice I was crying until the tears hit the paper. My most precious boy, that's what she always called me. And out of nowhere, I remembered that night at the kitchen table and wished I'd walked in and asked what they meant. Their things went into storage. I thought a lot about that letter, about what day they meant, figuring I'd know it when I saw it. Eventually, the fear faded into background noise. I inherited the house, my parents' place, out on the edge of a small town in rural Saskatchewan, more field than town. I worked at the local hardware store, shipped parcels out for people on the side. I kept the myrrh on the mantel by the fireplace, and the letter folded in a kitchen drawer. I had it memorized. Light the fire, burn the myrrh, stay near the flame, my most precious boy. 4 years after my parents died, my life had settled into something almost normal. I was seeing someone, had a deposit down on a St. Bernard puppy from a breeder a couple of towns over. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, and it was enough. It was a Saturday, late April, sun going down over the fields, turning everything that reddish gold color. I'd fallen asleep on the couch and woke to my phone buzzing a low battery warning. I had dinner with my girlfriend's family the next day, my good shirt already ironed and hanging up, when I heard something outside. "Hey!" a voice called. "I need to talk to you." I didn't get many visitors, but I knew most people in town by sight, so I opened the door without thinking twice. At first, I couldn't process what I was looking at. There was a woman on my porch, a few years older than me. I recognized her from the flower shop I drove past every morning on my way to work. Dark eyes, short, curly hair, and in her hands, pointed more or less at the ground, a shotgun. I stared at the gun long enough that my heart skipped a beat before I noticed the rest. A mess on the ground behind her, a broken lawn chair, some sheets of plywood arranged like a makeshift fire pit. She looked wild, right on the edge of something. "This is the day," she said. "Isn't it? It's him, right?" "What day? Why do you have a gun?" "He told me to bring it. Go to the house furthest east, light a fire." She paused. "Burn myrrh. Stay near the fire." I stood there feeling the floor tilt a little. She struck a match, got her own fire going against the wind, dragged a folding camp chair out of her backpack, sat down, and tossed a bag of marshmallows onto the ground like this was any other Saturday. I went inside and stacked wood in the fireplace, hands shaking. I dumped in lighter fluid and struck a match. The flame caught fast. I grabbed a handful of myrrh from the jar and threw it on, spilling some down the front of my good shirt in the process. I cracked the window to air the smell out. Myrrh doesn't smell great, like burnt, wet mushrooms. "You good in there?" she called. "Just lit the fire. What was that about myrrh?" "I was told to burn it, weren't you?" "Light a fire, burn myrrh, stay near it, and bring a gun. Go east." She frowned. "You live here." "I was just told to light a fire, burn myrrh, and stay by it." "You know how to use that thing?" I asked, nodding at the shotgun. "If your dead father tells you in a note to bring a shotgun, you bring the shotgun." We started from the beginning. Her name was Marilyn, 4 years older than me. Her father had died the same day mine had, and left her almost the same instructions, with one difference. He'd told her to go east, to the last house on the road, and stay by a fire there. Mine hadn't told me to go anywhere. I was already home. Our parents were roughly the same age, from the same part of the province, though they'd lived completely different lives. But her father and my parents dying on the same day couldn't be a coincidence. I sat in the windowsill, watching the fire lick at the wood while the sun finished setting. I offered to let her come inside, but her instructions said stay by the fire, not whose fire, and she wasn't willing to risk it. I told her about the night I was 9. She nodded, the shotgun resting across her knees. "My dad did something like that too," she said. "Right after his mom died. Talked on the phone with his brother all night. I'd never heard him sound like that." She had 3 kids of her own, and had made a point of not telling them any of this. Better she was the only one who knew. We swapped the worst memories we had of our parents acting strange, until Marilyn said the thing out loud first. "I think something killed him," she said. "Killed my grandma, too. And your parents and grandparents. I don't know why it's coming for us now, but it came for them, and it's not done." "How did you know it was today?" She threaded another marshmallow onto a wire stick. "My dad used to sing me one song when I was a kid. Bob Marley, 3 Little Birds. Every night, no matter what kind of day it had been." She checked the marshmallow, slightly burnt.
You know what I woke up to this morning? 3 dead birds on my front step. And I just knew, cold all the way through. I didn't doubt for 1 second that today was the day. I threw more myrrh on my own fire. I believed her. A few hours passed. I found a bottle of whiskey I barely ever touched and poured a glass. Marilyn lit a cigarette. It was almost 9 when I caught a light out in the valley, far off, at the edge of the field, something burning. I pointed it out to her. "Think we've got company," I said. "Can you tell who it is?" "Barely see the fire itself." She stood, walked a few steps from her own fire, and shouted across the field with everything she had. "Hey! Stay near the fire!" Someone shouted back.
I couldn't make out a word. She tried again, slower. "Stay near the fire." 1 syllable came back, faint, and that was it. By 10, 2 more fires had appeared out across the field. 5 of us total now. None of us close enough to help each other. None of us willing to close the distance. Marilyn was rocking slightly, fighting to keep her eyes open. I could see the first rush of fear in her had worn into something heavier, tired, warm, sleepy, which was somehow worse. The night was still, warm for April. No wind at all, which didn't help. "Hey," I said, mostly to keep her talking. "You should light some too. Myrrh, I mean." "Why? It smells like an old cat." She thought about it, though, and shrugged, and came a little closer so I could toss some through the window. She caught it, opened her hand, looked at it. "Some gift for the King of Kings." "For who?" "You've never read a Bible?" "I like the ones with pictures." "Myrrh was one of the gifts the wise men brought," she said. "Along with gold and frankincense." She threw a pinch in her fire. "It's symbolic. Gold for an earthly king, frankincense for the Son of God, and myrrh," another pinch, "is an embalming oil, a symbol of power over death." I didn't know what time it was when we both heard something called out from across the field. We couldn't tell which fire it came from. Marilyn shouted back, but nobody answered this time. A few seconds later, I watched the furthest fire flare up bright and then vanish all at once. Marilyn was on her feet immediately, gun raised, her folding chair kicked over behind her, not that she noticed. "Oh my God," she muttered. "Did you see that? The fire just... it went out. It was right next to him." "Right next to him? Then what happened?" She started shouting again, and her voice rolled out flat across the field, with nothing coming back. Somebody from one of the other fires yelled something in response. I couldn't get all of it, but I caught the last 2 words clearly enough. "It's big." I backed into the house and stayed close to my fireplace. Threw on more wood, more myrrh, just in case. Another fire went out a little before midnight. Not long after, I heard something running. Someone running toward us across the field. Marilyn was already up, gun ready. In the light of her fire, I saw a pale face closing the distance fast. A man, maybe 45, eyes stretched so wide they looked black. There was another sound behind him, a gallop. Except there were too many hooves for it to be one animal, or any animal I could picture. As he reached the ditch by the road, something hit him. His white shirt vanished into the bushes, and a second later I heard bone breaking, that specific awful crack you feel more than hear. His body came back out of the bushes like a napkin caught in the wind, and landed in a smear across my driveway. Marilyn's fire shuddered like something had physically flinched away from it, the embers folding in on themselves.
We both looked away for less than a second, and when we looked back, the man was gone. Just a torn sleeve, some blood, and a backpack left in the grass. The moment her fire caught again, Marilyn swept the gun across the field, but there was nothing to aim at. One fire was still going out there, but nobody answered when she called to it. Nothing moved. We just stood there, holding our breath, listening for anything. I could have sworn I heard that gallop again, close, right by the house. Before I could say anything, Marilyn grabbed a burning branch and ran for the dropped backpack. The second she left the firelight, something enormous tore past, bigger than any horse, kicking up a wall of dust, clipping the corner of my girlfriend's car hard enough to shove it sideways and cave in a headlight. It didn't slow down. She unzipped the backpack. Water bottle, a chocolate bar, a pack of cassette tapes, a tape player with dead batteries and no way to plug it in outside. We had no rope, so on 3, she lobbed the player at me through the window. I caught it, nearly went over the sill doing it, and plugged it in on the windowsill so we could both hear. The first tape started mid-conversation, a mess of voices talking over each other, more argument than fight. One voice came through above the rest. "They all died the same night," it said. "We lost people the same night. So what? Does it matter that somebody lasted 40 minutes longer? We need to look at the pattern." "Half of them died within the same minute," another voice said.
Everything after that has to mean something.
"Mean what? You think it's scared of fire? Of smoke?"
Everyone who stayed near a live fire lived, on average, 4 hours longer. The voices dissolved into noise again. Marilyn put a hand over her mouth.
"That's my dad," she said, barely audible. "That's my dad's voice on that tape."
I paused it. She shook her head at me to keep going.
The picture got clearer the longer it played. This was our parents, at some kind of meeting, working through what they knew. Our grandparents had all worked together on something years before Marilyn and I were born, at the same university out east, part of some research project back in the 70s. The details were thin, something about echoes, something they'd tried to get rid of by dumping it in a river. Whatever it was what killed them. And before they died, they told their own kids it would come, eventually, for anyone connected to it.
Marilyn found a notebook in the bag, summarizing most of the tapes. Rules, mostly. Find a field to the west. Don't say a word. Light a fire. Stay near it. The tapes were mostly our parents working out why some people had lasted longer than others. A shotgun in the house bought 20 minutes past the average. Burning myrrh, an extra hour. Being drunk, maybe 5 minutes. Smoking, 4. But fire was the deciding factor. Everyone who kept the live fire going lived roughly 4 hours longer than anyone who didn't. Nobody made it to sunrise, no matter what they tried. And a few who'd stacked several factors together still died close to the same time as everyone else, which meant either some of it was coincidence, or there was some other factor nobody had figured out. Rather than force everyone to do the same thing, our parents had split up the instructions, hoping somebody would stumble onto the real answer. That's why Marilyn and I had gotten slightly different notes. They didn't know either. They didn't even fully understand what they were up against. Near the end of the tape, Marilyn's father's voice came through one last time. "If the day comes, I'm staying home, lighting a fire. If it works, I'll tell my daughter to do the same. If it doesn't, she'll have to try something else when her turn comes, because I won't be around to tell her." Then another voice, quieter. "This might land on us too.
I'm not bringing my most precious boy into this unless I absolutely have to. "Mom," I said out loud, before I even meant to. Marilyn turned her chair so her back was to the house, gun locked in both hands, wincing every time she shifted her grip. We both stared at the blood on my driveway. Neither of us said anything for a while. When the clock finally crawled past 1, she checked her phone. 2 hours, she said. It's been 2 hours. Since what? First fire went out around 11. It's just past 1 now. They said fire buys you about 4 hours.
She looked at me. That means in 2 more hours we're both dead, unless we do something different. She wasn't wrong. 4 hours, give or take, was the ceiling. Nobody on those tapes had made it past that, no matter what they stacked together. Fire was the one real answer we had. Mine had wanted to stay together in the car, which is exactly where the police found them. Marilyn's dad had stayed by his fireplace, same as me. We never found out exactly when he died, but he didn't see sunrise either. "The fire's not a fix," Marilyn said quietly. "It's not the whole picture. But it buys us time. If we don't make it, don't you want your kids to know what happened?" Her face went pale. She hadn't thought that far ahead. We went through the backpack again. A lighter, a scrap of wool. Anyone wearing wool had lived roughly 10 extra minutes on the tapes. Marilyn had a light jacket. I had a cotton shirt, the one already ruined with myrrh. "What if we stack everything?" she asked. "Somebody at that meeting must have tried. If it worked, you think they'd have let everyone else die?" She shook her head. Some of these things clearly canceled each other out somehow. One man on the tapes had frankincense, another a gold coin, and they died within a minute of each other. There was a pattern in there. We just couldn't see it. Marilyn was starting to talk about digging a pit when I heard that gallop again. Coming through the field, west side this time, heavy and deliberate now instead of frantic. I put my hand up, and she went dead silent, gun rising. I could hear it breathing. Long, deep pulls of air. An uneven series of thuds as it dragged itself past us, just out of sight. Then a sharp inhale, a wet, clicking sound. It stopped, exhaled. Marilyn's fire shivered, actually shivered, flames bending the wrong direction. Her breath turned to fog, teeth chattering. Her fire was dying, and not from lack of wood. When it started moving again, the direction had changed. It wasn't circling anymore. It was coming for the house. "Get inside, now!" She took one step toward my door when her fire guttered out completely. And the second the last coal went dark, something slammed into the ashes, throwing a wall of black grit into the air. Marilyn fired both barrels point blank into whatever it was. She must have hit something. It veered off, tearing into the wall of my guest room instead, glass exploding, brick crumbling as it forced its way back out. Marilyn caught the edge of it, thrown clean through my front door, left hanging by one hinge. She was down in the hallway, not moving. I'd broken the third rule the second I stepped away from the fire. But I went anyway, grabbed her under the arms, and dragged her back toward the fireplace as the gallop closed in. We both went down hard. I heard the heavy steps slow, stop right outside the broken door, testing the frame, wood groaning under the pressure. Then a hand came through the gap. The skin was gray. 4 fingers, each a different length, each wrong in a different way. Too many knuckles on one, not enough on another. One bent backward at an angle no hand should bend. It felt along the floor, dragging black claws across the wood, reaching toward Marilyn. I pulled her back another few inches, just enough, and the hand went still, then withdrew without a sound. I dragged myself closer to the dying fire and threw in the last of the myrrh. Marilyn's eyes were open but unfocused, a right arm clearly broken. I dug out my phone to call for help, unlocked it, and froze. The screen had gone black, except for a thin square in the middle, and out of it came a high, thin whine. I dropped the phone, screen cracking on the floor. "The ones with the phones died," Marilyn mumbled. "That's in the notes." My fire was barely a flicker. I threw on more wood. Nothing. Doused it with the last of the lighter fluid, soaking my shirt in the process, and struck a match against the box. Nothing caught. Like the fire had lost its appetite. Like it wasn't fire anymore, just the memory of one. I lit matches against the curtains, the rug. Nothing held. My mind raced through every factor on that list, and it hit me. Maybe it isn't about what people did. Maybe it's about what they were willing to give up. The gallop came again, slower, deliberate, and something heavy tested the broken door a second time. A hand reached in, one long finger nearly closing around Marilyn's ankle before I yanked her back, barely clear. I had a few matches left. I shielded her with my own body, stood, and took the deepest breath of my life. I struck the last match as the thing forced its way further through the door, barely fit through the frame, eyes set on the sides of its head like a horse or a frog, wide enough I thought they'd pop from the skull. I'm still not sure the head was a head, or that the limb reaching for us was really an arm. Something like a mouth split open, thick, tar-black fluid dripping from whatever was inside it. The match slipped from my fingers. Every ounce of courage I had left went with it. I'll admit it. In that moment, I would have given anything just to survive. It landed on my dress shirt, still soaked in lighter fluid and myrrh from earlier that night. A tiny bead of resin caught, and the fire came back to life. I grabbed the shirt off my own body and blew on it. The ember bloomed. I swung it out in front of me like a flag, shouting, begging it to work. And then it caught properly. My whole arm lit up. Half a dozen eyes blinked and turned away as the thing recoiled into the dark, too big to turn around quickly in the space it had forced itself into. It screamed, and I screamed too, from the pain, stepping forward like the fire itself was pushing me, straight at it, until it gave up and retreated. The gallop faded, moving away, back out toward the fields. I tore the shirt off my arm. The burn ran all the way up to my shoulder. My phone lit up on the floor beside me, screen cracked but working, the black square gone. I could call for help. When the police got there, I told them it was an attempted break-in. I wanted to tell the truth, but Marilyn talked me out of it before they arrived. As far as we can tell, this thing only comes for people who already know about it. Better to keep quiet. Safer for everyone. We made it through the night. A bad burn and a concussion for me. A broken arm for Marilyn. Small price, considering the alternative. We've kept in touch since. Wrote everything down, exactly what we knew, so we could pass it on to our own kids someday, in case any of this ever comes back around. Because who's to say it won't? We don't know the rules. I don't think anyone fully does. In the end, I suppose I did stay near the fire, even if I ended up becoming the fire myself for a minute or two. I don't think that's exactly what my mother meant when she wrote it down. But I think it comes down to whatever gets you through the night in the end. I haven't had another day like that one since. I hope I never do. But if it comes, and I look down at my porch one morning and see 3 dead birds waiting for me, I'll know exactly what to do. I'll be my mother's most precious boy, and I'll stay near the fire.